Yet another Texas A&M coaching search in the books. This time they land on Bucky McMillan for the head basketball position. And A&M went swinging for the fences in this coaching search. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about Chris Beard and all that stuff that went down. I think there's some really good stuff in there that's indicative of where A&M is going as a program. But obviously, want to talk about Bucky. I'm sure you guys have digested him now that it's been a couple of days. And I really want to contrast him to the previous regime under Buzz. And we all appreciate Buzz for what he was. But I think Bucky and his style and his personality are a very welcomed change to what was before, and what really couldn't get A&M over that hump. Even though Buzz brought some stability and consistency to the program, you just never excelled to that highest level. So I want to contrast the two, and I'm really interested in doing that because I think there's some really interesting compare and contrast exercises you can do with the two. But let's start with the coaching search. A&M was swinging in this search to a level that I did not anticipate. And we all figured that A&M would go knock on some doors, maybe a fringe level Power 5 program that had a young coach that was willing to move up, but we all questioned what A&M was as a destination, what maybe A&M was willing to invest into basketball. But lo and behold, early in the coaching search, Chris Beard emerged as the leading candidate, and there was indeed a long conversation and bidding war that went on between A&M and Ole Miss. And, that thing fell short. Look, I would have accepted him as the coach because I love this program and I would have covered whoever was at the helm for A&M. But I think maybe you dodged a bullet with a little bit of that baggage that he would have brought. And yeah, man, if you were not on board with the Beard hire and you were going to just, veto that whole, fandom for A&M basketball, I would have understood what you were doing. But A&M fell short. Ole Miss won the battle. Chris Beard stays home. But what I really liked about the search is that A&M did come out swinging. This is a coaching search that ended with a coach getting north of $7 million a year to retain his position. And if A&M was willing to play ball in that ballpark, that tells me that A&M is ready to invest heavily into basketball. And further information about NIL and what A&M is willing to invest on that front to Bucky McMillan's future team, of which there are currently 0 players, that number sounds like it's going to be adequate to build a competitive SEC roster. Now, there's unconfirmed reports hovering between the 6 to 7 million range. Whatever that number is, we have a pretty good inkling that it's going to be higher than what it was before, signifying that A&M is ready to elevate this basketball program, and they've chosen Bucky McMillan as the head man to do this with. And again, credit to Buzz. A&M has been relevant for a couple years. A&M was a contender in the SEC this year. They were a March Madness team last year. They had their SEC runs the last couple of years. It's been a decent run under Buzz, and I think it's a really great place to springboard forward. But obviously, we've been looking around. We've been searching the locker room, the meeting rooms, the basketball facility. No players. None. So Bucky's going to have to get to work right away to build his team. And he's not just going to get any random player. He's going to have to get guys that fit Bucky ball. So let's talk about Bucky. Let's talk about his brand of basketball. Let's talk about what he's done before. The man's an Alabama legend. The state of Alabama is what I'm saying, not Alabama Crimson Tide, but he's a legend in the state. He made his name at Mountain Brook High School, where he played, eventually moved up as a JV coach, then eventually the head coach of varsity, where he won 5 championships. I know we're talking about high school here, but for Bucky's resume, most of it is high school because he only has 5 years of college experience at Samford, where he really elevated that program that was very, very stagnant for like the previous 30-year history, hovering around 500, lucky to get to 20 wins a year. Bucky led them to 20-plus wins for 4 out of his 5 seasons. Bucky led them to the brink of a first-round upset in March Madness versus Kansas. This was in 2024. But Bucky does it with a very exciting, up-tempo, just fast-paced brand of basketball, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. By now, you know about Bucky ball, so I'll be as quick as I can about it. Full court pressure on defense, pretty much the whole game. Fast tempo on offense. Off a miss, off a rebound, the offense is up and running and looking for quick shots. They're looking to get you out of position when you're trying to react to a fast-paced offense, whether it's the ball carrier driving and then kicking out for a quick 3, whether it's the ball carrier taking a pull-up transition 3 when the one man back on defense is backing up into the paint to stop the drive. They are hunting quick shots. They are trying to get up as many shots as quickly as possible, taking any glimpse of daylight to score. But the defensive side of the basketball is what really confuses offenses and really what makes offenses feel the pressure the entire game. Because you can call buckyball a strategy, you can call buckyball a system. It's really a mindset. It's a mindset that we're going to be in your face, we're going to be moving, we're going to be speeding you up the entire game. And in doing that, Bucky usually uses 10 plus players per game. I know Buzz used a lot of players per game. That's one thing that'll hold over, but constant substitution because they play so fast, and it'll force the other team to react and game plan and really think about when they're going to play Texas A&M because it is such a distinct style of basketball. And it's going to be really fun to see on the offensive side of the ball because one thing about Buzz, and we loved his defense, we loved his offensive rebound and all the set plays they had to get offensive rebounds off of free throws and everything like that. It was great in its own right. It wasn't necessarily pretty on the eyes. Buckyball has a very distinct offensive style where they're hunting three-point shots. They're hunting quick drives. They're just doing simple plays, pick and roll, drive and kick. It's a lot of simple basketball, and it focuses on taking the first window available, and they get a lot of shots up. There's a lot of offensive flow and rhythm and identity that you see in these teams. And if you look at their game versus Kansas last year, they weren't hitting their shots early in the game, but with how many shots they got up, they finally caught fire late, and they overcame a 20-point deficit in like a 5-minute span because they're constantly getting shots up. They're constantly speeding their offense, the opposite offense up, and they're generating extra possessions by doing that. So at A&M, we're going to have a much more easy on the eyes brand of basketball to watch and get excited for in Reed Arena. And that sounds so much fun to me. But the big question is it going to translate immediately to SEC basketball? Is it something that he can build a team for quickly and get all 10 plus of his rotation to buy in and enact buckyball right away? And this is, of course, in a limited capacity because you're late to the game in this portal window. So we'll see what happens. And I think one of the keys to Bucky McMillan at Texas A&M will be the ability to get this thing off the ground floor. Because you can see a world where this thing does not work out in the first couple of years. He doesn't find the guys he needs. The style doesn't necessarily translate right away, whether it's by just the style not being good enough for the athletes and the size you see in the conference, or if he just doesn't get the personnel needed to run it in this conference. That's the big question, because you go a couple of years, 3 years, and you're not getting off the floor. Well, obviously we're going to be, scratching our head at that point about the hire because he is relatively new to the college landscape and to coaching overall. Because he's a younger guy, he's 41, he does have a lot of experience in high school, but only 5 in college. We're going to see on that front. But I wanted to get into how he contrasts with Buzz. We've already talked about the basketball style, the grit and grind of the slow plodding Buzz Williams physical defense to this brand of basketball he's talked about in buckyball. There's also a difference in personality. Buzz was great. He was very structured, very thoughtful, long-winded pressers, tailored suits, which he would sweat through in a game, and it was fun to watch. That part was fun. Deep metaphors, a very deliberate style. Bucky is extremely direct, extremely energetic in his style. He even has this quote about not wearing suits to games because he wants to feel like he's going to war with his players wearing the similar clothing that the players are wearing.
I've never understood why people coach basketball games in suits. It's never been something I've really understood because, we're going out to a basketball game. And my whole deal is I want us to look unified and our team look like a unit. I don't like 4 guys looking like they're, going to a funeral or a wedding and the rest of the guys sweating, diving on the floor. So I want my guys, when they see me over there, to know that I'm out there to fight with them.
He's really quick in his pressers, just very to the point in his pressers, just very different style of coach than Buzz in that way.
I'd like to welcome Coach McMillan to the dais now. We'll have him give us an opening statement, and we'll open up questions for the coach.
Thanks for covering. Glad to be here. Looking forward to tomorrow.
And, of course, comboed with the stylistic change of buckyball, I think we're in for some exciting times. And he has always been one to kind of galvanize the fan base and lean on his fan base, whether that was in Mountain Brook or at Samford. And I think that's one area where Buzz was kind of more of a close-knit unit. I think Buzz was very team-oriented. He would die for his players, which was great. And I think Bucky has some of that, but I think Bucky will rally the troops to Reed Arena a little bit more. And maybe that's me being wishful, because that's on my wish list with this next coach, is that we find a way to put butts in seats and read. Because, yeah, you think about the Auburn game this year, you had the student section maxed. You didn't max out your alumni side. The extra season tickets that were for sale did not get purchased. We're looking to make a product that is must-see TV in basketball, the likes of which we haven't seen since maybe 2016. So Bucky is going to be fun. It's going to be a new era. It's going to be a very distinct era. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on the hire and how you feel about Bucky McMillan. So I can't wait to watch Bucky Ball in action. I'm very excited to see what kind of team he can build. You have to imagine there's some players coming from Samford. That probably won't be enough. You're going to have to, well, literally won't be enough, but I'm saying you need to add some high-profile players, and you should have the budget to do so. Let's see what A&M builds. So we'll talk over the months about this roster and how it gets built, and I can't wait to watch it next season. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Gig 'em.